So this week we have the pleasure of having PureCyber join us. But before we introduce Rebecca, I'm going to quickly run through the new Microsoft Places that's just come out. It's in preview. Then I'm going to quickly look at MFA in Azure. And finally give you one final reminder about the changes that are upcoming in your Office 365 tenancies. Okay, so let's get started. So Microsoft Places, it's a new app from Microsoft that was released back in May. It's part of the Teams infrastructure. And its purpose is to improve the hybrid work environment that a lot of us find ourselves in today. It helps us organize that. Even though it's part of the Teams infrastructure, you can run it obviously in Teams, but it's available in Outlook and the Outlook calendar. It's available as well on the web and on the mobile. So that's the where Microsoft Places fits in. So let's see a bit more about what it does. So if we look at the interface and delve a little bit deeper into it, we can see that it's structured with your work week out there planned. And it's showing you every day which of your colleagues that you interact with on a regular basis are in the office on that day. And it's not just in the office, it's what building in the office, or, it could be a global environment, but you select and they select where they're going to be working on a particular day. So this helps you to plan your days so that in-face meetings and all of this can take place in a more organized way. So what you do, if we look at the icons at the top of each day, that represents that you're working in the office. On this side, this represents that you're working from home or remotely. And you might just be able to see here, you've decided to work from the office in the morning and from home in the afternoon. So it's easy for you to plan what you're going to do. But if we look over here, we can see that you've planned to work from home, but that red dot there indicates that somebody has arranged a meeting in the office for you. So you then can go in, look and see what the meeting is, obviously, and see how important it is. But you can then change your routine for that day and say, actually, I want to work in the office. So this is what it would look like. You just choose what building you're in. Okay, so very simple, but this is the end user experience. So very simple, and it helps them organize who will be in the office with them at one time. Okay, on top of that, when you click on those buttons there, you also see what meetings you have for that day. And if nobody's organized a room for that meeting, you can book a room here for that meeting. So it's a place for organizing between being at home and in the office. So when you click on that button to book a room, what you will see is this Places Finder. Now, the Places Finder will show you a list of rooms that are available to be booked. It'll give you a photo of the room. It'll give you details of where it is, and it will also give you what facilities are in that room. For instance, is it a Teams meeting room? On top of that, you can add floor plans to help your users find where and when they're going to be working. Okay. Now, Places Finder, if you want to use this at the moment, you do have to request this feature, but it is available and it will be available fully in the near future. Then there's the admin side of things. Now, the administrators will get a whole lot of analytics on how their rooms are being utilized. So, for instance, here you can see what rooms are being reserved, what rooms are being booked. Now, there's a whole lot of reports here that you can use based on a building, based on rooms, and even desks that have been booked out. You may have a hot desking situation and you're booking desks, for instance. So these sorts of reports will be very useful for administrators or estate managers that manage the utilization of all your rooms. Now, Space Analytics gives you the information directly as to what's going on in Places, but there is integration as well into other systems. So you might have room badges or things like that. So you can integrate into those systems and compare actual figures with what's going on within Places. So, you know, some people might say they're going into a room but don't turn up and things like that. Okay, so that's Places in a nutshell. It does have integration, or will have integration, into Copilot, and Copilot will help the end users in booking rooms and manage it if that room gets declined and things like that. And it will help them decide what days are best for them to go into the office. Whereas from an analytics point of view, Copilot will provide the estate managers, for instance, with a whole raft of information and recommendations that it will pick out based on the data that's in the system. So that's Microsoft Places. The licensing for it, it's in preview at the moment, and we're looking at it going into general availability, or GA, sometime at the end of this year. So you can use it now for free, but when it goes into general availability, it will be chargeable. Now, normally we don't know how things are going to be licensed once they go into general availability, but Microsoft have given an indication that will be included in the Teams Premium license. Obviously, that is open to change, but that's where we are at the moment. Okay, Azure MFA. Now, this isn't anything to do with the Entra MFA that a lot of you might be already using to protect your user logins into Office 365. This is to do with the Azure subscriptions you may have. So Microsoft are going to gradually roll it out from July, so this month, but it's going to be a gradual rollout. And what they are going to do is they're going to force or have a mandatory MFA policy for Azure administrators. The people that manage the resources in Azure will be forced to use multi-factor authentication. When your tenancies are about to be affected, Microsoft will communicate this to you and obviously give you more information at the time. Okay, moving on. Hopefully, a lot of you will have heard of this before, but from the 1st of August, there's changes in your tenancies. The first one is going to be Office 365 A1 Plus is going to be retired. So you need to check that none of your users have been assigned those licenses If not, you can either assign them an Office 365 A1 license, which doesn't have the downloadable version of Office, or if they need that downloadable version of Office, you will need to buy them an A3 or A5 license, depending on what you have in your institution. Also on August the 1st, the amount of storage you get from Microsoft is changing. Excuse me. Now, what you will get moving forward is a 100 terabyte pool that needs to be shared between your Exchange server, SharePoint server, and OneDrive. Now, on top of that, you will get additional storage dependent on the number of paid users you have in your tenancies. So you won't get any additional licenses for your students. So if you go to storage, if you go to reports in your Office 365 admin portal, then select storage, you'll be able to see a report in there which shows you where you currently stand. I'm talking to a lot of you. Most of you won't be affected with this, but some of the larger universities might get hit by it. So this is coming live on the 1st of August. So something you need to check, because if you are over that storage, you could end up getting charged for it. Also, storage related, any A1 licenses in your tenancy will now be limited to 100 gigabyte of storage for OneDrive. Okay, this is already in place, and some of you may already be affected by it. But if you need more storage for OneDrive for those users, your only option is to get them a paid license to increase it to 1 terabyte. So what do you need to do? Just check your current usage against that report. Cleanse your data, delete data if needed, and obviously get set up good information governance policies, retention policies, archiving policies, all that sort of stuff. And if need be, you can add storage if you can't keep within that limit. Okay, so that was a quick one this month. Now I'm going to pass you over to Rebecca from PureCyber, who will discuss the services they've got to offer. Okay, over to you, Rebecca.
Oh, thank you. Hi, everybody. Hope you're all doing well today. What I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly share my screen. So please bear with me. Okay. So guys at Pugh, can you just confirm that you can see that presentation on screen, please?
Yeah, that's up for us. Perfect.
Oh, great. Okay. So I'm Rebecca. I'm from PureCyber. So we are a cybersecurity company and we're based in Cardiff. So if you just bear with me. Okay. So we were founded in 2016 and we're Wales's largest indigenous cybersecurity consultancy. So currently we've got well over 100 subscription customers, and I'll go into the details around what our subscriptions are. We operate in 70 plus countries, and we're currently monitoring well over 250,000 endpoints at the moment. We have got a really good retention rate with regards to our clients, and also employee retention rate, which is great, which means that our knowledge is kept in-house. So moving on really, really quickly with reference to some of the partners that we work with, obviously Pugh's being one of them, which I'd like to add the logo onto this page at some point in the future. So it just gives you an idea of some of the partners that we work with. Obviously, because we work in cyber, we can't divulge everybody that we work with due to NDA, but that just gives you an idea of what we do in Wales. But also with reference to some of the clients that we work with. So we do work with some quite large institutions, obviously Cardiff University being one of them, and there's Cardiff and Vale College. So we do work with quite a few educational institutions. But the reason I'm actually here today is to kind of talk to you guys with reference to what PureCyber can provide to your institutions, to basically understand your cyber risk and effectively how to deal with that risk and how to operate a bit more securely. So we have actually built a single point of service subscription that's specifically designed to safeguard your institutions. And we deal with clients that range anything from your kind of 5 users to your 47,000 users. And that's across a multitude of sectors, including education. So what really kind of makes us different is that a lot of institutions will get their cybersecurity from multiple vendors, and you guys are probably the same. You probably have multiple vendors for your endpoint, for your incident response, maybe your certifications and your penetration testing, but not all of those vendors will talk to each other, and it can prove quite costly when you have multiple vendors. So what we saw is that in order to kind of streamline the communication to work more collaboratively with yourselves, we wanted to put everything in one box. So we're able to provide subscriptions that cover all of those different areas, such as your kind of your vulnerability management, your penetration testing, and your governance, such as certifications, ISO 27001, your dark web monitoring, and also your fully managed SIEM SOC. So we've got a fully managed SIEM SOC within PureCyber. And it's really good to have everything pulled together in one area. So with regards to the kind of subscription services that we have provided, we look at the different cybersecurity maturity of each individual institution. Now, it may be that you don't have any kind of formalized approach, you haven't actually achieved cyber essentials, and you don't really have much of a endpoint protection. And at that point, we would look at providing a foundational baseline for your cybersecurity. We can then provide another subscription, which is our core subscription, that would cover institutions that are very kind of cyber aware. There are occasional pen testing requirements. You do have a requirement for endpoint protection, and you are looking to potentially look at a governance framework in the future. And then you have your kind of your more mature cyber aware institutions that will have your kind of M365 monitoring and your pen testing. So you do that quite actively. You also have a kind of more formalized approach to your vulnerability management and a more formalized approach towards certifications. But actually now you're looking to expand your cyber security by adding in a SOC. Now, as we all know, with any kind of institution, any kind of public sector, and also private sector, managing and creating your own individual SOC can be very costly. And so what we've done is we've provided that service. You outsource your SOC requirements to us, and we provide you with a 24/7 fully managed SOC and SIEM. So that's kind of what makes us a little bit different to your average bear. What I've done is I've added this slide in just to show you what we provide as far as a service is concerned, because the subscriptions are great and it covers all of your requirements in one hit, but we also do provide the kind of more ad hoc services. What we've been doing quite recently is working with a lot of educational institutions around incident response assessments. So looking at an incident response, have you got a plan in place, and putting in a simulation around that. So that's one of the things that we've added into our portfolio. And something else that we've added into our portfolio that isn't actually on this slide, unfortunately, is our brand protection as well. So it works hand in hand with our dark web monitoring, and effectively we have identifiers. Now they could be things like your website URLs, it could be names, it could be absolutely anything to do with your institution. And then we can provide searches with those identifiers, and it basically trawls the dark web, trawls all of the chat groups, and it effectively tells us if any of your kind of credentials have been exposed, whether or not you're a subject matter in a dark web chat, and it just gives you kind of a little bit of insight into where you are and how vulnerable you are. So there could be a potential threat actor discussing whether or not they want to target certain institutions, and we can actually pull that information from the dark web by using those identifiers. So just a little bit more about PureCyber itself. Now, we work slightly differently to your average bear. Now, anyone on this webinar that has had any kind of cybersecurity in the past would have realized that it's quite transactional, some of those cybersecurity products, let's say, and solutions. What we've done is we've worked slightly differently. We look at a more holistic approach, and we like to slot into your department. So we will work alongside, you know, your HR department, your marketing, your IT department, support, and so on and so forth. And what we've done is we've cut cybersecurity into 3 very distinct areas, which covers governance, pen testing, and active threat, which you would have seen in the previous slide. What I'd like to do is I'd just like to show you a couple of screenshots, if I may. It's just kind of a little bit of an insight into what we see. So what you'll notice on the next slide is you'll notice a word Viper at the bottom of the screen. Our SOC is called the Viper Pit, and that is how it's branded. So please don't get confused. So just to give you an idea of what we see on a daily basis. So this is a public facing server over a period of 4 hours. Now, what you'll see here is you'll see the little skull and crossbones. Those are blocked attempts. So we have actively blocked attempts to get into that public facing server. And what's really, really interesting is 30 days later, this is what it looks like. So this is what the guys are doing. They're actively out there threat hunting and stopping these threats from happening and preventing access. And the same works with our M365 monitoring. So with the M365 monitoring, we are looking for unauthorized access into an M365 tenancy. So this just gives you a kind of idea of a 30-day view of activity in a single M365 mailbox. So any of those red dots that you can see on your screen there are actually us blocking access. And what you'll notice is that there are some light blue dots. Those light blue dots are authenticated access. So the user, the person trying to gain access has the username and does have the password and is able to pass through. If we see a blue dot outside of the UK and we know that you have a policy in place, a conditional access policy whereby anyone outside of the UK can't have access, but that person trying to access it does have the username and password, you will see a blue dot and a red dot in the same place. If any of that happens at any point in time, we block access immediately. It means that there is a potential risk that that threat actor will then go out and try and gain access through a VPN, UK-based VPN. So that's kind of what we do in the background. What I wanted to share with you really, really quickly around the education is just a little bit of insight into into what we do and why cybersecurity is really important. And the classic example is actually Lincoln College in the US. So this college, it survived 2 world wars. It survived the Great Depression. It survived a major fire in 1912. It survived the Spanish flu and it survived COVID. And then in December 2021, it had a cyber attack. That cyber attack hindered access into all institutional data and stopped the effectively the admissions for new students coming in. It meant that they couldn't actually deal with any of the enrollment side of things. And unfortunately, that system wasn't actually restored until March 2022. And because of that, that college is no longer around. So it just gives you a kind of insight into, you know, colleges and institutions can have everything in protection with regards to physical protection, but when it comes to cyber, it can be a huge risk. And don't want to scare anyone, but 2 other pieces here as well is the University of the West of Scotland. So they had a ransomware attack. The ransom itself was 20 Bitcoin. It shut down half the university systems. The data that was included in the shutdown was actually data that contained all staff bank details, national insurance numbers, and internal university documents. And then also St. Augustine's Academy as well. So again, the ransomware that took down their email and it took down their phone systems. Their external systems were fine, but internal student and parental information was encrypted. So that just gives you a kind of idea of what type of things that we see, and it's quite, you know, prevalent. The last thing I really wanted to kind of speak to you about, and I happened to mention it at the beginning of the call, was one of the new services that we provide. So we're now actually an NCSE accredited provider of instant response exercising. So what we're doing is we're working with quite a few institutions at the moment that are looking to run a simulation of how they would react in an incident, a cyber incident. And what it does is it effectively means that you can run that simulation in a really safe environment, and it allows you then to evaluate how your organization would be effective and what your ability would be to prevent, detect, contain, and remediate an incident. So we do that quite often. We do that in a number of ways through tabletop simulations, but also through live play simulations as well. Now, the last one slide I want to leave you on here is you guys, you probably have got cybersecurity, and you may use the likes of SentinelOne, CrowdStrike, Cybereason, Sophos, which is great. You know, they do provide instant response ransomware, MDR, they provide antivirus, threat hunting, and threat intelligence, and they're very, very good at what they do. What makes us slightly different is that we provide all of that, but then we provide everything that's in between, like I mentioned at the beginning. So we will provide the pen testing, we will provide the M365 monitoring, excuse my voice. We will provide you with a cyber audit and the vulnerability scanning on a monthly basis. So that kind of gives you an idea of what and why we are slightly different. So thank you very much. If you guys have got any questions, please feel free to add them in the chat.